and welcome to episode 1 of That 90s Spider-Man Show, where we're talking about Spider-Man, men, and lizards, and other animals. I'm your host, Henry, and over here we have a co-host. He's your host. He's better than no host. It's Jack.
Yeah, that's me. I was not expecting that.
Neither was I.
I hope people start doing that whenever I come into the room.
Yeah. You're the yo host. There's no other host. That wasn't what I just said, was it? But no.
It was so good. It was so good for a minute.
Like, I was in the moment, and then I kind of just, came out again. I was like, okay, back to normal Henry. Like, how, Bruce becomes a Hulk for a second, and he's back to Bruce Banner. I'm like this, mild-mannered scientist now for the rest of this podcast. And this mild-mannered scientist is going to talk about a podcast about the animated series of Spider-Man, which is, we're going through it episode by episode. From one, chronologically, I think is probably the best way to do it. Chronologically. And if you're confused, you're like, what is going on right now? Probably best check out episode 0, where we kind of go through things. And this is just us seeing this for the first time in 10 years? At least 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like 10 years for me. It's probably been longer for you.
Yeah, longer. I'd say longer.
You haven't seen it since you were a kid. I saw it when I was a teenager, a few of them. But yeah, I know we're starting this off.
Yeah.
We're just introing it, but I already want to go off on tangent because you just implied earlier that Bruce Banner would be a bad podcaster, but the Hulk
would be a great.
Would be great. Yeah.
I think it'd be incredible.
Very charismatic.
Yeah.
Good sound bites.
Absolutely. Like he'd be like, Hulk think bad idea.
Yeah.
And Hulk would have lots of different things. Bruce Banner would be like.
He'd overthink a bit.
Yeah.
You know.
He'd be like, I imagine there's Ed Norton voice being like, oh guys, I don't know what's going on, guys.
Yeah.
And Hulk would be like, Hulk think that this good. Hulk pontificate.
You're like just sliding into a Nigerian accent?
That just happens from time to time. But yeah, I don't know, that's all my accents go Nigerian for some reason. I'm not even my parents aren't even from Nigeria. I don't even know I have this accent, but I have it.
Yeah.
This is my repertoire.
I also, just to point out to you and to our listeners, I knew you weren't Nigerian. I just froze a Nigerian accent.
Yeah.
I don't know what Ghanaian accent sounds like.
Yeah. It's actually fairly similar. They're adjacent countries. They're next to each other. And you get people coming in. There's not this is a whole random tangent I'm going to have to go off into, but there's people in Ghana complain about people in Nigeria coming in, a bit like America and Mexico.
Oh shit. I didn't know that was a thing.
That's a thing, apparently. And there's no Ghanaian Prime Minister going we need to build a wall. We need to build this wall in front of Nigeria. But it's a thing that people talk about, and there's a little bit of Ghana. I've not been there for 10 years, so I don't know if that's actually quite.
You haven't been there since you last watched Spider-Man.
Since you last watched Spider-Man.
Oh yeah.
So you're watching Spider-Man.
I was watching Spider-Man as a teenager for the second time. Yeah.
I was just hanging in Africa, being shit. Don't know what's happening in my life now. What should I be watching Spider-Man?
Yeah.
But here we are, better. I think, for it.
I mean, surprisingly, this whole Ghana, Nigeria thing isn't covered in this episode. No,
it's surprisingly not. You think that, political issues from, 10 years ago would be covered in a TV show 15 years ago, but life is unfair, is what I have to say about that.
We got, 5 seasons ahead of us. I remember a lot, but there's a lot I've forgotten. So, I mean, for all we know, there could be a Nigeria episode.
Imagine Israel-Palestine will come up at some point.
Oh god, hopefully they solve it.
Yeah. Spider-Man webs up everyone in Israel who's fucking up. He's like, guys, we need to web each other together on a big spider web of love. It's how Spider-Man talks.
I think we should have a board of topics not to cover in our Spider-Man podcast, and just have Israel Palestine at the top.
It should be the title of our no box.
Unless we somehow solve it.
I feel that's
that would be the place you'd expect it to be solved.
This is plausible.
Spider-Man
this is the whole point of the podcast, is to solve the Israel-Palestine conflict.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a metaphor for what's going on in the show is the Israel-Palestine conflict. Yeah, Spider-Man who's
Don't go anywhere with that metaphor.
As soon as I thought about it.
Wherever direction you go will be the wrong direction.
There was
no one will be happy.
I'm just getting lots of angry Israeli or Palestinian people just upset at us. So that's a whole demographic just cut out. I'm sorry, Israel/Palestine. That was my bad.
We've already lost Nigeria.
Nigeria's already pissed off at us. So without actually like causing any more like international conflict, let's talk a bit about episode 1.
The Night of the Lizard.
The Night of the Lizard. It's not particularly like clever. It's just it is a night and a lizard.
I mean, it's kind of like it's ominous.
Only if you know what the lizard is. If it's just like
I guess lizards are like even the big lizards are still fairly what even the dangerous big lizards are still very avoidable.
Yeah.
You know.
Like how often are you gonna fuck with an alligator?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we're talking. Oh, yeah. If we're going alligators, then
that's a very big lizard, right?
Yeah. I guess I don't run into them that often.
No, me neither. Like almost never.
But again, you wouldn't have an episode of any kind of show where it's like the night of the alligator. There's an alligator loose. If you're in an area where there's alligators, you know, there's people you can call, and they come.
Yeah. And
they sort it out.
Yeah. This is Florida when you kind of just like hang out with them. Apparently.
Funnily enough, we'll be coming back to Florida later.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh no.
But anyway,
so
let's go back to the Night of the Lizard. Alright, we'll just run through the synopsis, just for those who can't remember. You got a giant lizard has been spotted in the subways, and Jameson is willing to pay $1,000 to the photographer who gets the creature on film. Peter turns to his college professor, Dr. Curt Connors, for answers, but not the answers he expects.
That sounds incredible. It sounds... I'm full of suspense. Had I not seen the episode like 10 minutes ago, I would have been full of suspense. I would have been like on the edge of my seat.
It's weird because I it's very hard to like come in for this stuff, like trying to think what it was like to not know where things are going, because now I don't remember at what point I learned that Curt Connors was the lizard.
Probably in this episode.
Yeah, probably. I mean, again, like there was such a crossover between like when I was reading comics and then when I was watching the cartoon. So who knows? I mean, I don't really know when I figured it out, but I just wish I could be a kid again, just like going into this and this actually being a mystery, because they do play it up as a mystery for 80% of the episode before
you kind of realise that. Well, no, the kid kind of screws it up, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well,
like,
I mean,
most children, they just fuck things up for everybody. Little assholes.
But going into the episode, we start off. I mean, we get a quick glimpse of Spider-Man. He's like looking over the city, standard kind of Spider-Man opening, like, you know, this is New York, this is my home. That's just the opening shot anyway. We go around, we got 2 subway maintenance workers who, as Henry pointed out when we were watching it, basically Mario and Luigi, but like specifically like the Bob Hoskins and
John Leguizamo.
Yeah. And that's the dynamic here.
Like immediately you're like, that guy is clearly Bob Hoskins. And what makes it worse is the fact that like the lizard shows up and you just think Dennis Hopper. Like
oh shit. I didn't even make that connection.
He's like he's King Cooper.
They do really emphasize in this, like, he's got red eyes.
Yeah.
Which I don't think any of the comics ones had, like the red eyes. It looks cool though. And,
it looks really cool.
And that's what the one subway worker that gets away is like going crazy over, because he runs away, gets in his van, drives off. He's just going like, guy with red eyes was after me. Spider-Man sees the speeding car, like tries to stop it because he just looks like a maniac. And like happens in a weird amount of Spider-Man cartoons and Spider-Man media, he tries to stop the car and just makes everything worse because it just goes off a bridge. Every
time Spider gets in a car, like everyone, that car's written off.
Yeah.
Like car insurance in New York has Spider-Man insurance like tacked onto it because you get in your car's fucked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand, like, when you're watching the scene, you're like, well, you know, this works, this makes sense, I understand what he's trying to do here. But if you look on it afterwards, you're like, in all these situations, he 100% made it worse.
He fucks everyone over.
A car crashing into another car is one thing, but with him, it will flip over several times, it will go into water, it will explode, you know.
Yeah.
But it looked cool, so we're all kind of fine with it.
We're kind of clapping it out, but like, yeah, like that guy's car insurance, kablamo, that's done.
One thing that I completely forgot about this show until this very scene was that we got a mix of 2D and 3D animation.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got this... I mean, it's 94, so it's not even...
It's not good.
It's not like the... Because when I was watching it, there were certain parts of it I was like, oh, this reminds me of the Spider-Man PS1 game.
Right.
But that's not 94. That's like 2000.
It's 99.
No, 99.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's around that time. So... This is pre that, and you've got these... It's always just like skyscrapers.
Skyscapers.
And then the 2D Spider-Man over the top swinging through. it's really strange and distracting, but I think as a kid I was totally into it.
Like, I remember digging it when I was younger.
Yeah, I loved all that.
Yeah.
That 3D stuff.
But like watching it now, I was like, this reminds me a bit of Spawn. Because that was that level of like bad CG. I was like, oh my god, this is hideous. Spider-Man like swinging up like a kaleidoscope, or like take LSD and watch a Spider-Man cartoon. It was like that, but like it slowly comes around. And the thing I most about Spider-Man in this universe is that a bit like in the Homecoming one, where he's kind of like had the Uncle Ben thing, so he's been in Spider-Man for a while, and there's this like world weariness about him all the way through. Like he's not like. He doesn't give a shit about this guy in this car. He's kind of like, pull the fuck over, come on.
Yeah, and
what
he's
are you
like,
doing?
oh, and then when the guy's like, oh, there was a lizard in the sewers, he's like, yeah, okay.
Right.
It's almost like he's been Spider-Man, but he hasn't seen any crazy shit yet. Yeah. He's seen guys speeding and he's beating up criminals, but he hasn't seen like lizard men. No. He hasn't seen electric men.
No. Goblin people out of the question.
Yeah, and no other animals.
No.
You know, like hobgoblins.
No. Not one hobgoblin. Not even like people on giant wheels.
I mean, yeah, that's the craziest shit he'll ever see, but that's not yet.
That's coming. But yeah, like, so Spider-Man says, like, well, whatever, pal. And then we cut to the Daily Bugle of him.
Basically, Peter Parker comes in, you've got Joe Robertson's there, he's the editor, he's the nice guy.
He's the token black guy.
Yeah, and he's also just like the moral arbiter, he's just always there to be like, JJ, you're being a fascist again, like, calm down.
JJ's trying to declare a race war, for example.
but this JJ actually isn't that bad. There's a lot of bad JJs. I've been reading these classic comics.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this, like, there was this tweet going around that was like someone made like this sweet little cartoon, like this some artwork of JJ being asked by someone like, oh, why are you buying these photos of Spider-Man from this Peter Parker kid? They're really terrible. And he's just like, I just want to help him out. He's having hard times. And then a lot of people retweeted this like it was this really lovely thing. And it is. It's a really nice way of looking at it. But you read those comics, you get scenes with JJ when no one else is around. He is an absolute piece of shit. Yeah. Like there's a scene, in one of these comics, Peter Parker wants to buy a bike. He wants to buy a motorbike. Oh, and he needs someone to like vet him, like because he needs to take out a loan. So he rings up his boss. He rings up JJ. And JJ at first is like, well, screw you. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. But then he thinks to himself, wait, I should. Because if he takes out a loan, he will be in debt. And if he is in debt, he'll have to sell me more photos of Spider-Man. And that's genuinely what he thinks.
He's singularly minded, like, I need photos of Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then he gets his bike and then he sells some photos and then he's all happy and everything. But like, that was just him on his own. He was just thinking that, like, I want to bankrupt this 16-year-old boy so I get photos of Spider-Man. It's not the nicest guy in the world. But this JJ, he's kind of grumpy and cynical, but
like, he doesn't like think of Spider-Man when he's like in bed with his wife.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how the show goes on. Maybe that happens, but at least at this point, he's kind of like, he just seems like a good journalist. Like, he just kind of like, I mean, he's like, get a picture of the lizard. He's not even like talking about Spider-Man, is he? Like, he's just like, get a picture of the lizard.
The giant lizard man living in the sewers. Yeah, obviously that.
Yeah, which I tell you what, maybe in the 90s that wasn't like sending journalists out to do that, but I can imagine that as some kind of clickbait headline now.
Yeah. Many like newspaper headlines would run with that, and you kind of be like, fake news immediately.
Yeah,
you see it on Facebook, you'd be like, no.
Yeah, but again, he basically goes, okay, we've heard about a lizard man.
Yeah,
going around doing lizard shit.
May not sound like Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, and he says, right, whoever gets a photo of him, that's $1,000. You can have $1,000. That's sorted. And there's 2 people on the case for this. You got Peter Parker. He's just a photographer. Seems like he's freelance because he's at university at this point.
Is he at university?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he is. Because he's at university, and his link is that one of his teachers is Dr. Curt Connors, who knows a lot about reptiles, but the other guy on the case is Eddie Brock.
Who I didn't realise came into the show so early.
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, it's also like quite smart because the way that character's arc, for those who haven't watched the 2018 masterpiece, later becomes Venom.
Yeah. Was it Oscar nominated that masterpiece, or just?
I mean,
just,
I don't
just
know.
The Razzies?
I don't know because Suicide Squad was nominated for an Oscar.
Suicide Squad won. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it won.
I'm pretty sure it won.
Oh no.
It's the Oscar-winning Suicide Squad.
But anyway, it's good to set up this stuff early because you're establishing Eddie Brock as this kind of sleazy guy in the background who's, I mean, saying that, he's not really that bad in this episode. He's just kind of sneaking around. Before we get to that, Peter introduces, he's like, okay, well, I'll go talk to Curt Connors because, as he says,
he's an expert in recombinant DNA and reptile mutagenics. He's also a genius.
And he's a genius.
Well, that's good.
Just in case you didn't know.
Because it's like, imagine if you're an idiot who were doing all that kind of genetic stuff, and you kind of have kind of a men situation where you got this like giant like John Malkovich like scientist going like, I put the things together, and you got like, these mutant like lizard people. And like, oh shit, what are we gonna do then?
You just made me really sad that John Malkovich never played the lizard.
That'd be great.
You know he almost played the Vulture.
Yeah, in the Sam Raimi films, right?
Yeah. That's Spider-Man 4. I would have watched it.
With John Malkovich.
Yeah.
John Malkovich is anything. John Malkovich is Mary Jane. I would have watched that. That would have been great.
Yeah, that would have been...
It'd been weird for Tobey Maguire. Like, he would have been, like, freaked out. Tobey Maguire, like, strikes me as someone who's very, like, shaken a lot of the time. And then, like, you saw that Kirsten Dunst with John Malkovich. Just throws you. Just like, oh, fuck. I thought I was going to make out with Kirsten Dunst, but it's John Malkovich instead.
Well, no, I mean, that's not... I don't really want to see that movie, but I want to see that happen to Tobey Maguire.
Just
on the set.
Yeah.
Just see...
Surprise John Malkovich. You'd be like, oh, shit, like... Okay, let's do this make out. Oh, fuck, it's John Malkovich again. What's he doing back here?
Just reliving that same scene from being John Malkovich over and over again.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm not where you expected me to be.
I'm here now.
It's me, John Malkovich.
Your tongue is 3 inches down my throat now.
Oh, God.
Oh my God. But no.
But anyway, we've now he's got his purpose. He's gonna go find Lizard. But Peter doesn't even believe in this, which again leads credence to the idea that he hasn't seen any supernatural stuff other than his own powers.
Yeah. So
he's just like, Lizard Man, that's nonsense.
This is insane.
But he's gonna go and look because $1,000 means a lot. He can buy himself a lot of shit because he quickly finds out Aunt May needs bills paying.
Aunt May is broke as fuck.
And she's slightly hiding the bills underneath things, but still leaving them out enough to guilt him.
She hides them badly.
Yeah.
She's like, you can tell that she wants him to see them. This like teenager. It's like, yeah, like I'll just put this on him.
It's still unclear what age he is because he's at university, so he could be 18.
He should be at least 18. Yeah.
Yeah. But
like they have him like operate complicated machinery.
Yeah,
like,
maybe he shouldn't be like an 18-year-old, but
no.
I mean it's unclear. But he lives at home, which I think I remember being as a kid thinking Peter living at home. That's a bit weird because he should have left by now. Because in the comics, it's like he moves out when he goes to university. He moves out. He moves in with Harry Osborn.
Yeah,
but in this, it strikes you as a bit odd, but maybe not in 2019 because. You know, there's a lot of people living with their parents into their 20s, into their late 20s.
Probably into their 30s.
Yeah, so this is fine now. Yeah. Especially since he's just a student who takes some photos now and again.
Yeah. Like, student houses these days are extremely expensive. So really, he's doing the smart thing.
Yeah.
By staying inside and, like, hanging with his, like, broke aunt who's bad at hiding things. What does she do in this? Like, it's not
I'm assuming she's retired.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Making those... retirement paychecks, pension cover stuff.
She's just not really particularly useful at anything in this. Like,
she makes soup.
Oh God, well, why didn't you say so? Like, that's like the thing, isn't it?
But I mean, all this leads to the fact that he's like, okay, well, I need to go out and get this money because now it's not just for me; it's for like my aunt as well. So he goes out, immediately goes, okay, Lizard Man, okay, let's go to the sewer.
Goes to the sewer.
Yeah, and he goes walking around, but then he finds a footprint.
Yeah.
Of the lizard.
Yeah.
And what does he say?
What does he say?
Do you remember?
I do not remember.
Yeah, anyway, this lizard thing is probably just an urban myth. Wait a minute. Looks like I was myth-taken.
I was myth-taken.
Oh, God, yeah, that bullshit. And it's too early in the show to really like abide that. I'm sorry, that's awful.
I think it's great because he's on his own.
Like, no one heard that.
If he was with anyone else, it would have been a lame joke. But because he's on his own, it's an amazing lame joke.
But like the fact that like no one heard it makes it sadder, if anything.
Yeah.
Like, why would you say it out loud if no one's gonna hear it?
I don't know. I feel like if I was Spider-Man, that's what I'd be doing.
Like, he does do a lot of monologuing.
How confident would you be? Like, you know, the confidence of just wearing sunglasses.
Yes.
You know, wearing sunglasses and a cap, you feel like slightly more able to, I don't know, to speak, to say what you want. But if you're wearing a mask and a costume and you're walking on the walls and stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, that's Spider-Man! It's a celebrity," you'd be like, "I'm going to say what I want."
Yeah.
You know, I'm just going to have the confidence to go. Because how many times in the day do you think of a joke and then you're just like, I'm not going to bother saying it because who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
But Spider-Man, fuck it, try it. And if not, people will be like, oh, that was a weird thing that Spider-Man just said, but he's walking on the wall right now, so who cares?
I'm
like,
on top shit to this guy who could literally like bench press a Volkswagen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's earned the right. But like, if you're alone, you're just like making these jokes, no one will hear them. Like, you just kind of hear your own voice echo in the sewer, and you're like, "Oh, that was a bad joke."
That they should have edited that. Yeah. That should have been a thing of just him saying that and it just echoing slowly.
And there's crickets silence in the background. Even though in the sewer there should be no crickets there, but there's crickets. And he's like, "Is this thing on?"
They could add crickets to it because I mean I don't know much about sewage systems, but I'm pretty sure they don't look like they do in this show, where they're huge cavernous labyrinths of pipes and very good for Spider-Man to swing around in. Probably like a lot smaller and compact in real life.
Yeah, it seems like a colossal waste of like New York like council resources really to have such a massive sprawling like dungeon almost of a sewer system. I
mean, of course, it's not just the Lizard who should be having a secret headquarters down there. It should be every supervillain, because why not?
Yeah, like it's like prime real estate. It's like a WeWork for supervillains.
Yeah,
you know, they can come down there. You have like these cool like startup meetings where you kind of discuss like New York crime. You have a beer at the end of the day. Everyone goes out together. It's like a startup, really. But no, like, you take advantage of that. That's like, Lizard's kind of got all this space. He can't use it. He's just a lizard. He hasn't got anything doing. He's just making sales calls.
Going back to the university, Peter heads over there. This is when I only found this out way later. I'm not sure if it's the same in the show.
Yeah.
In the comics, he goes to Empire State University.
Yeah.
I only just found out fairly recently that doesn't exist. They just made it up.
Yeah, it sounds like made up university.
But it makes sense because, I don't know, I'm sure they'd do something at some point where there'd be a teacher who didn't like Peter. Oh, wow, actually, Dr. Miles Warren, who later becomes the Jackal.
The fucking Jackal.
He worked at Empire State University, so maybe they were like, well, if we connected the Jackal to a real-life institution, they might be mad.
They'd be furious.
They put out a statement how they aren't having secret cloning procedures in their schools.
And that's something as a university, you really don't want that kind of press.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, oh, we're creating, like, lizard people in our, like, university. That would be horrible. That people wouldn't, like, respond to that. Well, depends on, like, the university, and I guess it depends on the country as well. Because it's kind of shit to get away with in, like, I don't know, like, I'm about to say another country, aren't I? I'm about to, like, talk shit to another country.
I mean, you either double down on one of the previous countries mentioned, or you just name a new one and just like, that one listener, he's gone.
I'm gonna go for China.
Oh shit!
That's like all of our Chinese subscribers gone.
Yeah, I mean, our stuff's banned there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely, our stuff is banned there. There's no way that this is getting through the Chinese. They've missed out. They've lost already. So yeah, I feel like confident talking smack about them now. So yeah, the Chinese like creating like lizard people in their like universities. Like Shanghai University just...
This is not like... I feel like me trying to divert away from shit-talking China has somehow made you shit-talk China more.
I'm doubling down. But no, I've forgotten like, why we're shit-talking China.
This is the third international incident of this podcast.
I mean, like, it's been 20 minutes, we've got plenty of time. But, like, the point I think the point I was trying to make was that, like, yeah, like, this is the kind of thing you get away with in America. People would be upset if you try to do this in America.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're having, as we later find out, Curt Connors was basically trying to regrow his own arm.
Yeah.
Trying to give humans the ability of, like, that level of
Yeah.
regeneration. By using lizard DNA, he like injects it into a mouse and then shoots it with radiation, and it regrows its leg. And he's like, "Oh, it'll be amazing. We could use this on humans one day."
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of like touches his arm, like, "Oh man, I miss my arm." And Peter watches all this, doesn't take any note.
He's like, "This is fine."
And then when he starts seeing all these connections between Curt Connors and the lizard, he doesn't make any connections still. Even when he heads to the university and finds that
Curt Connors is not in his lab, but a lizard man is.
Yeah, and he's in a lab coat, and he runs away with a bundle, and he goes, "Oh, well, he must be carrying Curt Connors. That must be."
That must be what he's carrying.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation for this.
Well, even at that point, you probably should have thought, well, he created a giant lizard monster by accident.
Like, he makes no connection whatsoever. He's like, "Oh, isn't that a weird coincidence?" And goes about his day. But we're getting ahead of ourselves slightly because we're kind of missing the point where Peter like walks into the lab with Deborah
Whitman, who I forgot about in this show. She's in the comics as well.
Okay.
I think she's a I don't know if she's a scientist or student in that as well, but she's a brief love interest in like the 70s in the comics. And it's kind of an odd choice to put her like straight bang in the first episode of this. You know, you get her before Mary Jane or anyone else.
She looks like Gwen Stacy, and it kind of threw me for a second.
Yeah, but yeah, so she's in this, and they're students together, both in Connor's class, and they go to investigate. Eddie Brock is on the scene, presumably broken to try and figure some stuff out. It seems a bit reckless, to be honest. All he's got to get is a lizard photo, and he has a list of scientists he wants to visit, including Curt Connors, and he just breaks in.
Yeah.
Which is just a really weird, desperate thing to do.
Well, you haven't seen many episodes of The Brock Report. So.
Oh my god, The Brock Report.
He's on a motorcycle just going through all these different scientists. That's what the bread and butter of The Brock Report is investigative journalism.
So he's breaking in, right?
Breaking and entering is part of good journalistic integrity, obviously.
Yeah, and when he's hiding very obviously from them both, Peter's spider sense goes off, and I think this is probably, as far as I can remember, this is the best spider sense, the way it looks and the way it sounds.
It's super extra.
It has a little sound effect, and then it kind of flashes these weird vibrant colors around his head. It's a really cool visual and audio thing to represent it.
It kind of gives your hair, you kind of come on edge, just feeling that, because you're like, oh shit, something's going down. And it's something that the movies don't really do too well. The Amazing Spider-Man doesn't do it at all. They're just no, fuck that shit.
I can't remember those movies.
No one can. That's okay. Yeah.
I think they do a sound in the Raimi ones, maybe.
They have a couple of. There's one bit in the beginning of the first one where this 35-year-old man playing an 18-year-old kid. It's I think it's is it Joe Maniello? Fucking.
Oh my god, it is.
Yeah, it is, right?
Playing Flash Thompson.
And he's this fully grown 35-year-old man in kid's clothing.
Yeah. And
he throws a punch in really slowly, and you kind of see Super Maguire going.
Yeah, and he sees the fly with the slow-mo wings and a paper plane and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you have the bit in Spider-Man 2 with the train, where you can where he takes off his mask and you kind of see the end of the tracks.
Oh right, yeah. And then Homecoming, none of it.
Homecoming, there's little bits of it. In Civil War, there's a bit where he's fighting, I think, the Winter Soldier,
and someone's thrown at him.
Yeah,
and his eyes go wide. And
he's oh shit.
They do it very subtly, and I think there was always all these articles around it. Does he have canonical spider sense in this? Because they haven't told us.
Yeah.
And I was always well, he moved out of the way of something.
Yeah.
That he shouldn't have been able to see.
Clearly he has it, but I don't feel the need to go my spider sense is tingling. Yeah.
In Infinity War, we get his hair standing on end.
No, we do. Yeah.
Which is the only other sort of visual thing I can think of.
I like that they didn't milk it, because it gets really stupid and cheesy if you do it too much. You didn't have to stop the whole fucking show to go, I have spider sense now.
I think you do. I think it's awesome. I think it depends what it is. I mean, if it's just an attack, fine. But if it's a case of I'm Peter Parker, I'm going about my day. Oh no, my spider sense is off. It's just a big Peter Parker thing. That sense goes off when he's just hanging out with friends or whatever. It means shit is gonna go down, and I'm gonna have to act like a weirdo.
Yeah. Because
everyone is fine, but I'm gonna have to try and protect people, which means running out of the room suddenly, or saying everyone get down before anything's going on. And in this case, It means putting his hand over Deborah's mouth
like a
to
serial
quiet
killer.
her,
Yeah.
which of course freaks her out.
She's terrified.
Yeah, until of course she hears some noise and then they
She's
spot
more
the
terrified by that.
actual lizard. And Peter, he goes to run after him. So the lizard jumps out the window.
Yeah.
And Peter jumps out and does like a Spider-Man crouch pose on the window ledge and goes to lift his shirt up to reveal his...
Like Spider-Man costume.
Yeah, as if he's going to undress on the windowsill with her behind him. And she goes, no, don't leave me on my own. Which is fair enough. But also, I don't know what she thought seeing her friend Peter Parker on the edge of a window. Did she think he was just going to jump out the window?
And fuck up this lizard man, yeah. She's like, she even says, like, Peter, you're really brave. You're going to go fuck that lizard man up. And he's like, yeah, I was. Do you think, like, had she not said anything, he would have just, like, got, like, chained into Spider-Man and he'd be like, look around and be like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I've got to kill you now. You're dead.
Yeah.
You've seen too much.
Yeah, very, very dark turn for the show.
Peter Parker's kind of an idiot in the show. Not gonna lie. Like, he's meant to be, like, this super genius, but, like, in, like, 5 minutes, he's done two really just colossally dumb things.
Well, the weird thing with the Peter Parker in this show is that when he's in the suit, when he's Spider-Man, he's awesome. He's just sarcastic and, like you said, a bit world-weary, but he's just taking the piss out of everything.
Yeah.
And it's fine because he's Spider-Man and he's still nice, so he's still doing the right thing. Yeah. He's being kind to Billy in this show, but at the same time, as Peter, we're told he's smart, and he acts like he's smart, like he's a little bit smug, but he doesn't really do anything that smart in this, or as far as I can remember. So it does end up coming across as just a bit like a smug idiot.
Yeah. Like,
which it doesn't help that he's also got this like Superman jaw, and he's super broad, and he's got this very weird fashion sense of a lot of sweaters and shirts that are like incredibly tight and always tucked in perfectly. So he doesn't like necessarily like, it's very easy, like he'd be the kind of guy that if I saw, I would kind of write off and be like, oh, that guy's probably a jerk.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong, but a lot of the time I'm going to be right.
He kind of acts like a jerk the whole way through. And like, if it was like a live action version of this show happening in like a movie, he'd be played by like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they like kind of like ignore the fact that he's got an accent and be like, that's Peter Parker, he's from Queens in America. He'd be like, hello, I'm here, part of the Daily Bugle.
Oh my god. Now I want to see that with
be
John Malkovich's
Mary
lizard.
Jane.
Oh no. Forgot about Mary Jane. No, I don't want that. I don't want that.
You want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger make out with John Malkovich?
I don't want...
Can we canon?
I don't know who I want as Mary Jane, but it's not John Malkovich.
I mean, you can't rule it out. Mary Jane, I'm here for you. And I can't do a John Malkovich impression. I can't do a Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, but you can...
Yeah, you
put
can
the
still
pieces
figure it
together.
out.
Yeah, figure it out.
I mean, I don't know if I want to hear you do a Malkovich impression of Mary Jane making out with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I don't want to know if I can do that. I don't think that's a good thing for me to know that I can do.
That's true. Before you gain the confidence to do that, we should probably move on.
Before I become very depressed.
Yeah, before I become depressed, I'm just thinking
Both
about that too
depressed.
Much. But going back to the Connor's house, the lizard's on his way there. The person who shows up first is Spider-Man, who scares the shit out of Margaret and her son, Billy. Margaret
being Dr. Connor's wife.
Yeah, and he just shows up, and it's kind of understandable that she's freaked out because he just kind of like shows up in her house, just a strange man.
Yeah.
But she surprises him by going like, oh, make sure you don't hurt him. Like, don't hurt the lizard. And he's kind of like, what's going on here? But meanwhile, Eddie Brock's being attacked by the lizard.
Because he's doing...
I guess he's just hanging around outside Curt Connor's house.
He kind of like sneaks around. He's kind of listening to the conversation, isn't he?
Yeah, and basically Spider-Man learns from Margaret that he actually did do the experiment on himself and got his arm back, but almost immediately like became scaly and weird.
Yeah.
And just went crazy and ran away.
He looks a bit like Killer Croc in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he has that mid-transition thing, which is really weird.
Yeah.
And then basically Spider-Man realizes that Brock's nearby. He goes after him, realizes that Brock is after this story, and he's gonna, tell everyone about Connors. And Spider-Man like webs him up, webs his mouth shut, kind of leaves him hanging there. You kind of get why he's doing it, but he at no point even tries to reason with him. He just like takes the piss out of him, bullies him, ties him up, and you're kind of like, okay, they're setting up this Venom thing
Yeah.
because he's just treating him like shit for no reason.
He's being an
right at the
asshole
start.
to this like random guy.
And you can kind of tell. I mean, it's almost like a little bit relatable. I mean, I don't know if I was 18, you know, and you're kind of immature, maybe you would go, okay, well, I'm going to be a little bit more of a dick here than I need to be because I don't like this guy or because I know he's a bit of a sleaze. And
it's too tempting not to, really. Like Spider-Man's not Superman. He's not a Boy Scout. He does the right thing, but he's going to be a dick about it.
Yeah, or he's going to be a dick like 1 out of 10 times and then feel bad about it for the rest of his life.
Just guilt forever.
That's the Spider-Man way. Just like feeling guilty about every wrong thing he
Him
does.
and Daredevil, just like guilt brothers forever.
Yeah, oh man, yeah. But Daredevil has a lot of stuff to justifiably be guilty over.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dick.
But
Eddie Brock is hanging from a lamppost. Mouth web shut. Apparently he'll mend a couple of hours. We don't know. We hope so. But yeah, Spidey sense goes off again.
goes back to the house, and I think he's attacked by the lizard at that point, right?
No, so the lizard kind of like he goes in, and then Billy's just there on the front porch. And he says, "Oh, the lizard took my mum away," and they went down the sewer.
Did we mention that he does fight the lizard at one point as well?
Oh yeah, he does.
So that must have happened before. They fight outside the house.
Yeah, because Brock's listening in, and then like the lizard comes up, and Spider-Man's like, "Okay, you probably can't kill this guy."
Well, they fight, and kind of lizard kind of kicks his shit in a bit. He tries to take a photo. He drops his camera in the water, which is a very Peter Parker thing to do.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, well, I'm trying to do the right thing here, but like the one thing that I want to do for myself is getting fucked up along the way.
Yeah.
But the lizard runs off, and eventually, after all this Eddie Brock stuff,
Comes back.
he returns to the house. He finds out Margaret's gone. And then he has this really nice moment with Billy where, I mean, it would have been fine if he's just like, oh, I gotta go save your mum now. But he goes, calms him down, and then
Like wipes away his tear or something.
yeah, and he takes him to his neighbours to look after him. And you're kind of like, this is kind of immediately made me feel good about watching the show again, because I was like, okay, this is a nice Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
This guy's actually like a good person.
A genuine hero.
Yeah, and he's just taking that time aside, you know?
Like, he's probably wasting valuable time where his mother could have been killed. But he's like, no, I want to calm this kid down first, make sure everything's okay with him, before I go save his mother.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what that kid can do. Maybe he'd turn himself into a lizard if he's too scared.
Kids are very creative, and they'll do that if you let them do it. Like, I don't have kids, but that's my one fear as a parent, is that, like, my kid will become like a lizard person.
Well,
How will I live with that? Like, I can have my kid being, like, gay or, like, trans, but a lizard person is, like, where I draw the line.
well, you're gonna look like a bigot
Yeah.
in 20 years from
Yeah.
now.
Lizard people are, like, all the way through the news. They're kind of, like, campaigning for lizard rights. And I'll be like, those damn lizards aren't people.
Yeah.
In my, like, porch. Well, I'll be, like, 45. That's far too young for me to be that old and out of touch.
Yeah, I mean, the rise of the lizard people can do a lot of things to people there.
Yeah. Can really break a man.
But I mean, going back to this lizard people
Yeah.
idea, Spider-Man like follows them down to the sewers, where the lizard has captured Margaret, and it turns out he's also got the sewer worker to help him build this machine to get it working.
Also, how does a sewer worker know how to build a machine to...
I don't know. They really don't go into that. But that guy's just scared as shit, so he runs away.
He's supposed to be a plumber.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it was just like, you know, I've got these weird lizard hands. Can you just put this in this slot?
Okay.
But at this point, Lizard is like, he's speaking normally. He's got like intelligence. He's speaking like Curt Connors. But he's just very obsessed with the idea of lizards. So he's saying to Margaret, look, I'm going to take this thing that turned me into a lizard, but rather than just turning myself back to normal, you know, or trying to
like refine
change
the process.
it. Yeah, refine the process, make it so it just regrows arms. No lizardness needed. Instead, he's like, I'm going to turn everyone in New York City, including you, into a lizard. Can you help me do this?
And she's surprisingly not cool with this.
Yeah.
And like the weirdest part for me is that like, so I've seen The Amazing Spider-Man, and this part in the film where like, I think it's Reese Ifans.
Yeah.
He kind of says like, I'm going to turn the entire city into lizards. I was like, that's a stupid as shit plotline. That's a terrible innovation. And you see it here, and I'm like, holy shit, it's canon.
Yeah,
I was like, that's mad.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you said that to me, I was like, well, it works so much better in a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah.
Because this is just one episode. Like, oh, the lizard is here. He's going to do something. What's he going to do?
The dumbest thing imaginable.
Yeah. I mean, I remember before The Amazing Spider-Man came out, I always thought the lizard would be a great villain for a Spider-Man movie as a secondary villain.
Yeah.
Like, all this stuff's going on, and the lizard stuff's happening in the background. Maybe it's the final fight in the movie.
Yeah.
Because the lizard is quite a sad thing. It's a not Frankenstein, what am I on about? It's a Jekyll and Hyde thing.
Yeah.
It's like maybe he's trying to do something good for the world and for himself, but he makes a tragic mistake.
Yeah.
He turns into a monster, and Spider-Man wants to fight him, but he also cares for this man and wants to cure him. And it's quite a lot of emotional stakes in that. And then, because it's a movie, they thought, we've got to raise the stakes.
But even then, like, it's been done better in other movies. Like, one thing that I think of is The Dark Knight. We have that whole Harvey Dent plot, and that culminates in a very, like, satisfying way. Like, it's over far too quickly, but I still think that's a better way of doing it than just having, like, this scientist who's studied for several years at the highest level wants to turn New York City into lizards. And you have to go with that.
What I think, going back to just what the lizard looks like, one of the most baffling things, and it still bums me up to this, and it's the first point when I knew that I probably wasn't going to like The Amazing Spider-Man, was when you see image of what the lizard looks like in that movie. Because they chose not to give him a snout, but to give him this very humanoid face on a lizard body. Yeah. And it looks fucking awful.
It looks like shit.
It looks really, funnily enough, looks like the Goombas in Super Mario Bros. Movie.
We've come full circle.
Yeah, exactly. He was never Dennis Hopper. He was one of the Goombas. But it's
oh god.
But the design of the lizard in this, I think, is probably the best design of lizard in any medium, in any of the cartoons, in any of the comics. He looks really cool because he still is this mix between humanoid and lizard, but
they don't fuck around with it.
Yeah, and he's just there's just things about him, like the way his brow looks and his red eyes. He looks really cool in this, and I don't understand really with that movie how they had all of this stuff to draw inspiration from, and they were already using CGI for it.
Yeah.
So they could have done it. They've already committed to CGI, but then they choose to do this weird, horrible looking face, which isn't intimidating, but is also way too weird to sort of empathize with.
It's just gross.
And also, I feel like if you're looking to empathize with something, having an animal, that is ferocious, but then, calms down and realizes what it's done, that's still sad. People get sadder over, like, dogs and horses and stuff than humans half the time.
Sometimes humans. Mostly dogs.
I have no idea what they were doing that, but this lizard looks great. And he does have pretty much the exact same plan. Yeah.
It's like, it comes across as less stupid because we're in a cartoon.
Yeah.
But it's exactly the same.
It's because they got to explain his plan in one sentence. So he's like, I got to turn everyone to lizards because then everyone would heal everything and it would be fine.
To be honest,
anyway, let's move on.
That doesn't come across in the movie at all. Like, his plan makes more sense in the cartoon than it does in the movie. You get his motivation here more than you do. Like, in the movie, it's just kind of like, fuck it, lizards. Everyone lizards now.
Yeah.
And here, in the cartoon, it's just very, this makes sense. I can grow my arms back. I can regenerate for ages. And there's actually a logic behind it.
But after this point, he's attacked by Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They start fighting, and Curt just, loses his shit, goes crazy. He's full lizard now. He's not really speaking or anything. He's just a monster.
Just roaring and shit.
That's when Margaret tries to use the same machine to turn him back. He accidentally sort of hits her with a tail, and it flies way over there and lands on a pipe.
Like, the physics of that just don't make sense. Like, it balances perfectly in the pipe. Like, even if you were trying to do that, it's impossible.
So Spider-Man heads over to it, tries to figure out, he's worked with the machine before, which I actually think is like a nice little detail. The fact they add that in so it makes sense why he'd maybe be able to work it.
Yeah, because this Spider-Man doesn't prove himself to be as intelligent and to operate that kind of machinery without, like, previous kind of experience with it.
I guess he's kind of smart then if he's doing this though.
Yeah, but like it's more like muscle memory. Like Kirk Collins probably has to be like, okay, no, Peter, don't put it in your mouth, Peter. He's like, but they're tasty.
I think you're coming down way too hard on this Peter.
Maybe slightly.
Yeah, I think you hate him just because he looks like a jock. He looks like a guy who beat you up at school.
Yeah, I'm getting like flashbacks actually. It's like so many people who have bullied me in school. I'm like, no, fuck this Spider-Man, not having him. In the costume, yeah, but like all Peter Parker in his like tight shirts and his muscles, no.
It's definitely a bias you have.
Yeah.
But this Spider-Man, he swings across the room, he grabs the machine, tries to use it, but the lizard takes him down into the water. Then we have this weird thing, which I actually really like.
It got very like psychedelic and experimental.
Yeah, they just start. They're fighting in the water, and it's really frantic and underwater, and it's not like a easygoing scene. But then you just cut to this sort of voiceover monologue of him just contemplating what it's like to fight his mentor
Underwater.
Yeah, with the sound sort of faded out. It's just like this really strange cinematic moment. I was like, okay, this is actually like, this isn't just like goofy good or like, oh, I remember from when I was a kid good. This just actually is pretty good.
Yeah. And it's like a really like interesting and like poignant moment in what should not be a poignant scene at all.
Yeah, so he basically, he activates this beneath the water, comes out of the water, and he's all fine.
Yeah. He fires like the rainbow ray. For some reason
It's a rainbow ray.
Yeah.
But they, during this whole period, he managed to take a few photos. He had his camera up there, so he's got his photos.
He's got his crotch light as well.
Huh?
Like, there's a bit where like Spider-Man's like in the sewer. He's got his like weird like light, but it's like coming from his crotch for some reason.
Oh, he's got like a belt.
It's a crotch light. Like,
I mean, you can call it a crotch light, but it's definitely a belt.
But why not just have it like on his wrist or something where like...
That's like a Stan Lee thing though. He has a belt.
Okay.
He has his web cartridges on there. He has his Spidey light. He has his little Spidey tracer thing.
So it's like a bat utility bat for spiders.
Yeah, but he has it like underneath so that they don't have to draw it.
Yeah, because animation takes time.
Yeah. Anyway, so cut to Eddie Brock is getting JJ to come to Curt Connor's house. Like, look, this guy's a lizard. Let's just knock on the door. The lizard's gonna be there. It doesn't really make sense, but he's like, come on, I've got this sorted. I know exactly what's going on here. JJ's like, well, Peter already gave me the photos. I gave him the grands.
Like, it's the only reason he's here is just to fuck with Eddie Brock. It's just humiliate him and go like, yeah.
Yeah, and then Eddie Brock makes it worse by saying, oh, I'll eat this edition of the paper if I'm wrong. Curt just opens the door like smug, like, yeah, everything's fine. My family aren't traumatized at all by this incident. You know, everything's fine.
Stop crying, Billy. Everything's fine.
Yeah, and then JJ, again, being surprisingly just good at his job, is just like, kind of like, oh, well, you screwed up, and then makes a joke about it, about like, oh, do you want this medium or rare with the paper? But he's kind of like, I'm just like really shocked at how he's kind of an angry dude, but he's just
genuinely nice.
Yeah, and he's good at his job.
He's competent and like, not compassionate, but not a piece of shit. But there's like something you see a lot in the movies as well, like, there's one bit in the first Spider-Man film which I really appreciate where, like, when the Green Goblin shows up at, like, the Bugle, and he's like, tell me who takes pictures of Peter Parker, and Spider-Man even. And then J. Jonah Jameson has the opportunity to, like, rat Spider-Man out, and Peter Parker, and he doesn't take it. And there's, like, this little tiny moment where you're like, he could have fucked over this little kid, but he chooses not to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. We don't see much of J. Jonah in, like, the movies, but I feel like the piece of shit version of him is very much relegated to the comics.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that maybe the best version's got to be like J.K. Simmons in those Raimi movies, because he's a piece of shit, but he's also like, he's got this humanity as well. He's kind of a bit of a jerk, but like, it kind of makes more sense. Like, they go so hard with it in the comics that he's kind of just like, he's really hateable.
Yeah.
And then they add that humanity in like quite later on. And then by that point, if you read like those first 50 issues, you're like, this guy is irredeemable at this point. Especially when he funded several destructive attempts to destroy Spider-Man.
Like, the man has a hate burden for Spider-Man. It's insane.
Yeah, but even to the point where it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I think in those first like 30 issues, every single villain that comes up, he thinks is Spider-Man in disguise. And every time someone says to him, no, but we saw him fighting Electro. And he goes, oh, okay, that was just a trick. And everyone's like,
this dumb motherfucker.
Yeah.
But, like, why would Spider-Man need a disguise? Spider-Man is the disguise.
And why would he hide his electricity powers before this point?
Like, the level of logical gymnastics you need to take just to, like, say, no, fuck Spider-Man. Yeah. This is all him.
Yeah, it's mad, but this one seems far more sane.
Yeah,
we'll see where it goes.
He's got a lot of time to become a crazy person.
But after this, cuts back to Peter. He's gone home. He's got his money. He gets to pay. Aunt May and be like, you can pay your bills now. But she's like, where'd you get this money? He's like, saw these photos of the lizard, shows them to her, and she's like, oh, you went to the sewer. But rather than suspecting anything more, she's like, oh, so you followed Spider-Man down to the sewer. There's probably loads of germs there.
Yeah.
Go take a bath, I'll make you some soup. Which is kind of insane, but at the same time, 100% like what my mum would do.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've been in the sewer.
Go take a shower. You smell like
Yeah,
shit.
it's this weird thing of like, you've been in a sewer, there's probably loads of diseases down there, it's very dirty, but also soup would solve it.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be fine. But the best part of that for me is how Peter Parker, having decided to show his aunt the pictures, and knowing where the conversation is going to go, has no response to her going, so why are you in the sewers? He's just there going like, oh shit, didn't think this through at all.
It was the one thing I had to think through. And I
And he didn't think about it. And Aunt May just gives him the out, and he's like, yeah, fine. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, at this point, you should know how to cover up your secret identity, and he's got no clue. It didn't occur to him before she asked the question, and I genuinely believe that, because he's shitting himself.
And after this point, it's just like basically cut to credits. It's really abrupt end, but it's just like, oh, me and Spider-Man are both the same man, and
we have
also not.
And New York is safe again, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Very, like, closing, like, comments of the episode.
And then we cut to the closing, which I completely forgot about. This alternate sort of theme, which kind of similar to the intro theme music, but a little bit different, and it's really cool.
It's less intense, it's more just... Musically, it's much more interesting. It's more, like, techno-y. There's not as much, like, explosions, obviously, going on in there. And there's also really cool concept art as well.
Yeah, and also it looked like it seems to be, like, only... concept art of that episode, which makes me think that we're going to get some cool concept art for all these episodes, which is a really cool idea, and I think something that they should do in more shows, because on the one hand it's just cool to see, but I think if you're a kid, you're kind of like, oh, this wasn't just made, like it didn't just appear on my TV.
There was a process.
Someone's making this stuff, and you kind of wonder about that process.
Gets people like curious, I guess, and like the arts and stuff. And yeah, it's really quite, like, I found it was really interesting. Really into it. Really cool.
And the episode in general, I think a lot of these shows tend to have repetitive music and recurrent themes they go back to. But this one, like, I feel like it has really good music all the way through.
I remember the show as a kid being very, like, repetitive in terms of themes. Like, it had musical cues with, like, different things about to happen. So you could, like, hear something and go, oh shit, Spider-Man's about to be, like, have a shit kicked out of him by the Kingpin, or, like, Mary Jane is here. Because they have a very specific Mary Jane theme soon.
Right.
But, like, here, everything's very fresh. Everything's very, like, oh, this is a really nice theme. And it's just very varied and very original.
Maybe it'll get more repetitive the more we go on.
Maybe.
But on top of the music, I also think there's loads of, like, small details about the show that look really good.
Yeah.
We mentioned before, like, the lizard's design looks great. I mean, we're not too hot on, like, how Peter looks. It seems a bit at odds with a lot of things about Peter Parker. But one thing that looks great is the webs.
The webs look fantastic.
Which seems like a really weird, like, minuscule thing to focus on, but the way they kind of have these separate strands that wrap around each other, and then with the sound, it's actually really interesting looking, but not too showy that it's distracting.
There's something you can look at it and, like, focus on the webs entirely and be kind of just, like, fascinated about that. And they make a really cool sound as well. I really appreciate the sound.
And you can't do that kind of stuff in the movies either. I think the one they got in the MCU works fine. The one in the Raimi ones looked a bit too much like actual webs. Yeah. To the point where it's a bit kind of weird and gross.
Yeah. You know, this stuff is coming out of him.
Yeah, the weird thing is that I think the closest like the movies have come to webs like this is in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where they actually make a point of showing these strands kind of extend in slow-mo. But it just doesn't work at all. In fact, they go so over the top with it.
I'm thinking of the bit where he's, like, in Times Square, and it's, like, really slow-mo, and he's kind of, like, webbing up, like, the police car, and, like, saving all the people from, like, the electric rail.
I'm not even thinking of that. I'm thinking of something way worse.
Oh, God.
Which is...
I know what you're thinking of.
Spoilers for the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Had you not seen this 5-year-old movie by now?
Yeah, and also, like, one of the most iconic moments in all of comicdom. He shoots a web to try and catch Gwen Stacy. And in this scene, which is, you know, they've got a lot of very overbearing themes about time running out.
It's literally in a clock tower.
Yeah, they're in a clock tower, and, like, there's cogs moving, and he's shooting this web through different cogs to get to her, and she's reaching out for the web, and as the web, like, comes near her, it's like the strands come out, and it's like a hand, like, reaching for her. And she's reaching out for it, and I mean, it catches her, but she dies, and it's really brutal.
But that bit's just a little bit stupid. Kind of undercuts it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't think I really noticed it that much until I saw something about it afterwards, because as soon as you're thinking like, what the fuck are they doing with the webs? It's just like her head hits the floor and like, oh
shit,
damn, she's dead. So you don't really have time to like register it. But that's the closest those movies got, and it didn't really work. So I think this is definitely an animation thing.
It works much better in animation than like, because like if you think about like the web strips and how they work, it doesn't work in practice, but it kind of gets you like into the webs a bit more.
So what did you generally think of this episode?
I think it was a weird place to start off, to be honest.
It feels like one thing I'd say is that Curt Connors as a character, he's good to have someone built up in the background, and then, oh no, this happened to this beloved character. Like it looked like they were going to do in the Raimi series, because he kept showing up.
Yeah. I think that was a plan originally in the Raimi series.
Yeah.
And it makes much more sense, like, emotionally, like, in terms of character development to do that. But yeah, like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, so the Spider-Man, not the cartoon, the comic even, it starts off with the Vulture. And I think it's very good, like, then to start off with, because, like, there's no character behind him.
They don't start off with the Vulture in the comics.
No, they don't.
The first one is Chameleon.
Oh god, really?
Yeah. So that's like Chameleon, because the whole thing in the first one is... Well, the first issue is basically... You got him meeting the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
And then you've got him being impersonated by the Chameleon as his first supervillain.
Okay.
And then after that, I think
it's Dr. Octopus after that, isn't it?
I think you're right about Vulture being early, because it's like, I think it goes Chameleon, Vulture, Dr. Octopus, Sandman, Doctor Doom, which isn't obviously original, but he just turns up, and then the Tinkerer.
Oh, the fucking Tinkerer.
Yeah, he actually shows up in Homecoming. I like the Tinkerer. The first issue of the Tinkerer is mental because the Tinkerer is working for aliens.
He's working for aliens.
Yeah, it's like, I remember reading it when I was a bit older and just waiting for there to be a reveal that they weren't aliens, but they were aliens the whole time. And they actually, like, I can't remember when it was done, but there was an issue later on where they retconned that they weren't real.
Like, but that makes less sense.
But I think it turned out like it was all people in disguise, or it was part of some other scheme. And it was actually, I remember that it made that issue where they retconned it was actually quite good. Like, they made it a funny thing, and it was quite good. But in the actual thing, it's like, we're at issue 4 or 5 or something. It's aliens. And Spider-Man's like...
people.
And Spider-Man's just like, I stopped those aliens all on a day in the life of Spider-Man.
Yeah. And
then, they never show up again. But
the Tinkerer sticks around.
But it's after Tinkerer that you get the Lizard.
Oh, really?
And going to that origin, I think there's some surprises here. There's the obvious stuff. The origin is basically the same.
Uh-huh.
He hasn't got an arm. I think in this he says he lost it in a war, which, seeing as it's the 60s, you're presuming...
It's World War II, maybe?
Yeah, probably. But he doesn't live in New York. He lives in Florida.
So it's actually a Florida Man story.
It's genuinely the original Florida Man story. Because, for anyone listening and for you, if you don't know, the reason that Florida Man is a thing is because they have these specific information laws.
Yeah, the disclosure laws are really, open in Florida.
Yeah, so it's why you get all these crazy stories just come out all the time. But now it's just, become a thing because there's always a Florida man doing something.
Yeah.
And he's basically, forth as the same mythic man.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. The reason that Spider-Man knows about the Lizard is because of the Florida Man story. The ultimate Florida Man story, because it's not like Florida Man does something weird with an alligator. It's like, Florida Man is a lizard. He's a lizard
literally
man.
An alligator.
Yeah, Florida Lizard Man. But basically what happens is they find out there's a lizard on the Florida Everglades. He's just wandering around doing lizard shit. And Jonah Jameson, he sees it and he's like, I want some photos of this lizard guy.
Yeah.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And then Peter Parker's there and he's like, I'd like to get some photos of it, make some money, but how am I going to get down to Florida? So he kind of goads JJ into letting him go down, but he's like, why don't you dare Spider-Man to fight him? And JJ's like, oh, it's all bullshit, it's not a real guy. And he's like, just get Spider-Man to fight it, we'll go down, we'll take some photos, and then he comes back as Spider-Man in through the window to be like, oh, I'll fight that lizard guy, just so JJ is like, okay, I'll definitely take us down to Florida.
Yeah.
So
Starts talking shit about the lizard, so he's like, oh fuck, I could take that guy.
And Peter's upset because he's like, he thought he was just going to be sent to Florida where he could take some photos of Spider-Man, a Lizard Man if he exists, and then come up. But then JJ's like, no, I'm coming with. So he goes on a road trip with JJ, and they go down to Florida, and basically they head down. They split off because Peter's like, well, you go back to the hotel. I'll go ask around for some information. I'll go ask this reptile expert, Curt Connors.
Yeah.
You know, he probably knows a lot about lizards, who probably knows about lizard men.
Yeah.
And he goes there. When he turns up as Spider-Man, he finds that, kind of much like the show, the house is kind of like messed up and the wife is upset. And in the comics, for some reason, she's called Martha. She's not Margaret. I don't know why they changed that.
It's a really weird, like, very specific change to make, which didn't need to be made.
Yeah, but Billy's still Billy. And he's still there, but they find out, like, oh, well, this is what happened. This is how he became the lizard. And she's like, you got to go and help him and cure him. And so Spider-Man immediately, like, gets in the lab and just makes a cure.
What?
Because he's just good at science.
He's just like, he's a science guy.
He's a 16-year-old, like, science whiz, and he just, like, I think he, like, uses his notes or something and just, like, makes a cure, goes out looking for the lizard, and the lizard just, like, beats him up.
Because he's a lizard.
Yeah. He heads back out to find him with his chemical cure. And this is the best thing. Like, I'll see if I can get a photo of this. Spider-Man gets out, I'll show you.
Oh my god.
He makes swamp shoes out of his webbing.
Oh,
so he can glide across the river, and so he's like rowing across on webbing. There's a lot of weird webbing stuff.
Why don't you just like swing? That's the whole point of like having the web shooters, right? You can just.
I mean, it's trees and stuff. He's not in like he's going through swampland. It's not really like the small trees. I don't really know Florida geography that well, but no. I imagine it's not that easy to swing.
It's not like Spider-Man conducive, I guess.
Yeah, but either way, so he wanders around looking for the lizard, finds him, gets in a fight. The lizard in this, I believe, he wants to use his formula to turn the other reptiles in this swampland into like humanoids to take over the Earth. So it's not that far.
It's like a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
It's you could like hear like InfoWars or something.
I think this predates. I think this predates like the everyone is secretly a lizard man.
I feel this was like the ground zero for that particular theory.
It's funny how that's never come up. I mean, as far as I know, they've never made that connection. Although maybe that's just the wrong road to go down as a comic book writer.
Yeah. Like, well, I guess like the Skrulls are like a loose version of that, but they're not quite lizard people, are they?
Yeah, I mean, they're green, but that's it.
That's racist if I say they're the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want to, like, alienate the lizard people as well.
I don't want to hear anything about, like, how they have the same chin as Thanos.
And who would say such a thing?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be outrageous.
But they have a fight, takes some photos, and then he basically gets his ass kicked by the lizard, and only just manages to get the cure down his throat, and he turns back to Curt Connors, everything's fine. But then when he takes the photos back to JJ, he says, how did you get these photos? And because he's like, well, I can't explain why I was in the middle of the swamp, he, for some reason, says his next best idea is to say that he got them from an Indian guide.
Wow.
Yeah. Presumably a Native American guide, he means, rather than like just a random Indian guy who's hanging out in Florida.
He's taking like a trip.
Although saying that it's still weird that he chose Indian.
Yeah.
Anyway, he shows them to JJ, and JJ's like, well, this is obviously a fake. Some guy just made some fake photos, and he tears up the photos. And then they head back, and he makes no money.
He's just poor.
That's the end of the story. And like a lot of these Spider-Man stories in like the first 100 or so, all these issues end in just bad shit happening to him. Like he tries to like make something work, and it just doesn't.
It fails.
It's unlike the show where in this one, not everything went right for him, but at the same time, he made $1,000 and he got to pay the bills.
Yeah, like it all comes out like for the first episode, you can't have like him like just coming home broke, or like Eddie Brock like getting the thing and he's just like, well that sucks. I got my ass kicked and almost drowned for nothing. So I guess like you guys be more optimistic in the TV show rather than in the comics, I suppose. But I don't know.
I think it's still an odd choice to go with Lizard first. I mean, it's good in that it's not a very complicated villain to introduce.
True. And
his origins are kind of tied into things you want to tell the audience about, like his life. Like, oh, he works in a lab and he goes to this university and he's a photographer, and you want to introduce Eddie Brock and the Bugle and Aunt May. And it makes sense, but also it does feel like almost like an episode 2.
Yeah.
That you feel like you're jumping into a series that's already running.
It is a bit like a first episode. It's not like a pilot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they just kind of skip over the origin, which is why as a kid, I think I always thought I missed the first episode.
Yeah.
And I just didn't.
That was the first episode. You just didn't know. It's something that Homecoming kind of borrows from a little bit, but Homecoming had like the added effect of being in a Spider-Man film set in a universe that had already been established.
Yeah.
So it's not as jarring.
Yeah.
Whereas this is just like, oh shit, who's this dude? What's happening here? And there's no attempt in the show to hold your hand at all.
Do you have any more thoughts on this episode? Before I move on to our last segment?
Oh no, let's head right on to segment number last.
This is, I'm workshopping the title on this, but I think it's like maybe like weird lore bullshit corner.
I feel like we need like a very like Spider-Man relevant one, like we can call it the sewers.
Well, that's not that's just relevant to this episode. Spider-Man isn't really known for sewers.
No, true.
Anyway, my idea for this is generally when me and Henry talk, I'm just like sending him weird shit I find in comics. Like, oh, did you know about this? And if he didn't, then I get to surprise him with stuff. And I've done that for a while now. So he's actually heard a lot of the weird, crazy stuff that's happened in Spider-Man comics. And of course, the stuff he knows by himself as well. So I've been trying to find some like stuff that he hasn't heard about. And
I'm so excited, guys.
I'm going to come up with like one of these, for at the end of every episode. And this one I thought I'd find something related to the lizard.
Okay.
And I didn't in the end because I thought, okay, the first thing I'd go for was the iguana. Have you ever heard of the iguana?
Oh god, no. What's the iguana?
The iguana, it's like, it makes sense, like, when you get to this stage where, like, we've run out all these lizard stories.
So, it's like a baby lizard story going on?
No, it's like, the idea of it is that this isn't like a man who has turned into a lizard man. This is a lizard that was turned into a lizard man. It's like the opposite way.
Like,
so it's
man
like,
spider. But
yeah. It's like a basic, I can't remember the exact origins, but like, Curt Connors, has an iguana. Through some accidental experiment, it becomes like a lizard thing. But it's just, 100% asshole lizard.
Yeah.
I almost went for him. I almost also went for Stegron, who's a dinosaur man. Not that far, he wouldn't look out of place on Extreme Dinosaurs.
Everything comes back to Extreme Dinosaurs eventually.
You can't mention it once every episode. But
we should pay us royalties at this point.
But Stegron was a guy who worked for Connors.
Was he always a dinosaur man?
No. He got like involved in the research, and I think there was another accident, and then he turned into like this dinosaur guy. But I ended up looking them up, and I thought I got to explain this to you. But they were way too complicated. They went on, and they also like they had these histories that went on for decades in the comics, and they like started off in Spider-Man comics and then just like went off and did their own thing in other places.
Oh shit, really?
So they've been like long lasting, and I thought that's too much. And then I came across something weirder that only came up once. And I'd never heard of this.
Oh no.
And basically, what you got. There was a series I've never heard of before, but it's called Spidey Super Stories.
Okay.
Spidey Super Stories.
Oh, Spidey Super Stories.
And basically, it was this sort of child-friendly comic that it was like 4 panels a page.
Mm-hmm.
It literally says easy to read on the front cover, so it's just like this easy way for kids to get into it.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of the electric company thing they were involved with. There was like these. We have to go into this at some point because I only found out that there were these live skits.
Oh god.
But there was also these sketches.
Yeah.
They were in '74, and they were just part of the electric company show.
Okay.
And then this was just like a spin-off of that, of like, well, we'll have this comic to go alongside it.
Yeah.
And there's some weird stuff with it. Like I read the first issue, which does the origin, and it does the origin, but it just removes Uncle Ben.
Wait,
so there's no death, because it's ultra kid friendly. There's no death. There's no responsibility lesson. He just gets his powers, and then he goes, I should help people, and he makes a costume and he goes out. So they'd skip over that thing. And there's some very like simple stories. I think the first thing he does is help some kids reconnect a power cable.
Oh, that's very vital.
And then there's another one where there's a kid called Dwayne, and then the kid's getting bullied, he falls down, he runs home. He talks to Spider-Man, who just appears in his window. And Spider-Man's like, well, I gotta get out of town. Why don't you be Spider-Man for a while? And just gives his costume to this like 14-year-old boy, or however old he is.
That's...
And he goes out and he starts fighting crime. But then he gets in a bit over his head. He fights Vulture and Electro, and gets his shit kicked in, and he falls down. And then when he wakes up, it was all a dream.
Oh, thank God for that.
Yeah.
I thought Spider-Man just through his kid into mortal danger. He was like, yeah, see ya.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on a holiday. I'm going to Florida.
But that's the sort of stories that were in this. They were very they're not really about Spider-Man. They're
he's a side character in these stories.
Yeah, or they're just it's he's showing up as in it's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man solving a relatable issue, such as bullying or not being able to connect to a power cable,
which is a big problem in schools today, I heard.
But this one,
this is the one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to focus on one character.
Oh, no.
So it's introducing a character, and I came across this character, and I thought, oh my God, how have I not heard of this guy? Because as anyone who's had any kind of foray into Spider-Man lore nonsense, now there's a period in the 90s where there's lots of clones.
The Clone Saga.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And here's another Spider-Man doppelganger, but he's not a clone.
He's a guy who dresses up as Spider-Man.
No,
Unrelated.
not even that. Dr. Doom creates a Spider-Man doppelganger, not to be confused with another Spider-Man doppelganger who's called Doppelganger, who I don't know if you know about.
No idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll learn about him one day. That can be a future thing. Just don't Google Spider-Man doppelganger.
I'm not.
But anyway, what would you think this guy is called? Think of an alternate way of saying Spider-Man.
The man, not the man spider, but Spider Guy, the Arachno Boy or something like that.
I mean, both of these are actually better than what you got, which is Webman. There he is. But he's
he should sue.
He's basically this guy called Webman. I've just shown Henry a photo of him, but I'll include a link for this in the description. But he basically wears inverted colours of Spider-Man,
Yeah.
so the blue bits are red and the red bits are blue.
And he fucking sucks.
Yeah, and I knew I had to include this guy, because all I saw is one of those things where there's very little information, because this is a very obscure issue, not sure if it's even canon, I mean, it's probably not, but I first found him on Comic Vine, who just they have all these lists of different characters, even if they're being really obscure stuff, and he just had this photo of him. I was like, who the hell is Webman? And then it lists his classic quotes.
Oh no.
Which is, have some punch, Spidey, is one. And then another one, he goes, with this punch, you'll really see double. To which Spider-Man replies, he's as strong as I am, but his jokes are worse. And my favourite quote from Webman is, they don't call me Webby for nothing.
They don't call you Webby at all.
Oh, that's what you think. Because that's one of the very strange, amazing details about this. But we'll get into that in a second.
Oh, God.
Basically, starts off, Spider-Man is swinging by a building. His spider sense goes off. There's danger nearby. It's coming from that building. So he just goes into this building. He smashes through the window.
Yeah.
All he sees is a mirror. He just sees his reflection in it. And he's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go. It's just a mirror.
Yeah.
He leaves. Little does he know, on the other side of that mirror, in a secret room behind the mirror, is Dr. Doom.
Right.
It's not explained why Dr. Doom is here.
In this random building.
Yeah, I mean, you get an intro to him at the start where he's like, oh, I'm in Latveria, and I have all these loyal subjects, and I'm a tyrannical dictator. And then cut to, he's in this room in New York.
I'm assuming he's rented it at some point.
Yeah, but behind this mirror, now that Spider-Man has stood in front of this mirror, he can use his new machine just to make a mirror double of Spider-Man. Now that he's stood in front of the mirror. So, he makes this machine, but he makes a few alterations where he makes a Spider-Man with none of Spider-Man's goodness. Because, I mean, he's owning how evil he is. He's like, I don't even think I'm good.
No. It's very self-aware of him, I guess.
Yeah, and then, he he makes Webman, he calls him Webman, but then immediately Webman refers to himself as Webby. I can't remember how it comes out, but he just says, oh, here's Webby on his way, or whatever the line is.
And Dr. Doom's like, oh, Jesus. Okay, sure, why not?
This is the best thing about it, is that immediately after, Doom starts calling him Webby. And it's like, the way he's saying it is almost like it's affectionate. It's like like he's a pet or something. It's like, oh, Webby, I love
Webby.
Yeah, good old Webby.
But like,
it's kind of like he likes him already. So he sends him out and he goes to fight Spider-Man. And they fight a bit. He ends up chasing Webby back to the same apartment again. Webby's like, oh, now I got you now. Because he stands in front of the mirror again. And out comes another double. Who is immediately named by Doom Webby 2. He doesn't even give him another name. He's just Webby 2 and Webby. And they both fight Spider-Man, but Spider-Man's like, I'm not even going to fight you. I'm just going to jump and punch this mirror.
Yeah.
Jumps through. As soon as he does that, they both just disappear because the mirror is shattered.
Yeah.
And then he webs up Doom, who's pretty upset that Webby and Webby 2 died.
He just murdered his children.
Yeah. And he just webs him up and then he goes, now you're going to jail. Abrupt end. That's the end of Webby and his only appearance. Also the only appearance of Webby 2.
God rest his poor soul. Such a beautiful man, Webby 2. Oh my god, that's... It reminds me a lot of like Tiger Woods for some reason.
I honestly, Henry, I have no clue what you're going to say next at any point.
I'm going to leave you in suspense now. So...
Is there another Tiger Woods called Tiger Woods 2?
I can only hope. But the reason I thought Tiger Woods was that, like... So Tiger Woods' real name, I think, is Eldridge? Or something on that level. And at some point in his life, he thought, no, just call me Tiger. And people went with it. And I think one of the hardest things to do is, like, have a nickname and have people just call you that nickname. Like, I've been trying to get, like, Hank to become a thing for a while, and no one's going for it.
Well, that's where you should go with Hanky. Because Webman didn't go to Web.
He went to
Webby.
Webby. That's my mistake.
And, if you meet another Henry, he's Hanky too.
He's Hanky too. Hanky. Hank squared. I think
that's the end.
We can't possibly like add any more like Hank puns to this. I feel like we've really like beaten this horse to death. Let's say. I can't get over Webby 2. That's just extraordinarily lazy. Like having already like scripted barrel for Webby 1. He even stole Webby's like I'm mystified.
It's so much better that it's Doctor Doom. If it was the Tinkerer or
like Mysterio or something.
Yeah, Mysterio would make so much sense for Mysterio to do it, but like the fact that it's Doctor Doom,
this
who
evil
has
dictator.
He has a country. He has so much bigger fish to fry, but he's like, I'm just gonna clone Spider-Man, but I'm only gonna use this clone to fight Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is 1974, so I'm not sure when the first Spider-Man clone came into the comics, but it was definitely like the Clone Saga was after this.
It was like late 80s, early 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, there might have been some early like bullshit with the Jackal. I think he might have cloned him once or something, but I don't know when that happened.
Like, is that the whole Ben Reilly thing? Or like...
No, I think this is before even Ben Reilly. Oh maybe it isn't. I'm not sure.
The Clone Saga goes on for fucking ever.
And it's very confusing.
And no one likes it. But no. That's all something that's going to come up on other episodes of That 90s Spider-Man Show. But for now, this is the end of episode 1. I hope you enjoyed yourself. We certainly did. And yeah, so thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, because I believe that's what you do on podcasts. And yeah, thanks for listening. Go about your lives, everybody. Have a good one. Jack, any last words?
Bye.
You heard it here, folks. He said bye.
Wait a minute. Looks like I was myth-taken. Taken.